Hello YouTube, this is Learning Bro aka TLB, and this is my first video of the mini weblog series, Learn How to Program, Concentration in Web Development, specifically front end. This video I'm going to summarize the things I've been doing so far to learn how to program and some of the links and recommendations I found to be most effective for me online. Let's begin. When I first started learning programming about a year ago, it was very hard and very tedious process because I was bombarded with a lot of different information and resources, and I couldn't find the one that really solidified the concept of the core programming concepts in my head. To begin with, the when you start learning programming, you're gonna come across most likely this one really good website and course called um, CS50X, and it's an introduction programming course brought to you by EDX. It's and ran by Harvard, and it's a great class because it's very it makes you feel like you're part of Harvard classmates and you're in the lecture hall with the students, and there's a lot of resources after lectures and really great problem sets as well. The only problem I had with this class is I didn't finish it. It was too hard and it was really slow, and that's what I feel like you're gonna run into the cases a lot when you're going to learn programming on your own. You're most likely going to have a job and other responsibilities, kids or whatnot, and programming is going to be really hard to fit in your schedule. And courses like EDX50X is a great course. It's a very all-inclusive programming class that it teaches you like all the basic, all the necessary programming, where it came from, the history, how it began, how does coding work, from the nitty-gritty details. How do you talk to the computer, like literally? How do you literally talk to the computer? And I think it's a really good course, but I don't think it's the best option to start off if you're just beginning to show interest in programming, because it's very hard. If this is like your area of understanding, like courses like this kind of jam a whole fistful into a small, like knowledge into a small hole, and it's really hard to process. And what I mean by that is there's like syntax and knowledge and background and logic, and they try to throw those core concepts in programming all at you at once, and it just can be really confusing and daunting. And that's why I wouldn't recommend taking this class right away from the first source. I mean, I'm gonna go back eventually and finish it because it's it's a really good class, and it just teaches you. It has a really good set of problems, and just like what I'm trying to get into web development, by the end of this course, you get into making your first websites, and I think that's a great hands-on and realistic approach to the class, because it teaches you, though most of the class is taught in C. It's a very like a primitive language and not being used, but the reason why they use C is because it's very basic, and it teaches you all the core concepts. And it kind of the reason why I didn't like it, because I prefer to learn programming from useful languages, and that's the one that are more useful today, and not archaic languages that people were learning with many years before. And I'm not saying that the C language is not used today. It's just there's other languages that are more easily, not as more intuitive, not as hard to begin with, in my opinion. And that's why I recommend, and what I've been doing lately that I found to be very successful is this website called Learn Python the Hard Way. And this class is really cool because you, from the very beginning, you start off all the lessons. You type everything on the computer. You have a text editor, and you just the way he teaches you the class is you literally type everything that you see in this box, and you just, from the very get-go, you don't spend lectures like looking at how like programming internet works, and which is like good knowledge to know. But I think if you want to jump into programming and learn how to program right away, Learn Python the Hard Way is a great course because you jump in coding right away from the very beginning, and you type everything, and not in notes. You physically type everything out, and it also teaches you how to type programming and typing programming way. And I also like Learn Python the hard way because it breaks down and separates the core concepts in programming that I found to be very confusing. And what I mean by that is you first learn the syntax of the programming language, meaning like how to type it in and make the very simple commands into your text editor. And you first begin interacting with a command prompt, and command prompt is where this is a command prompt and this is a text editor, and the command prompt is how you talk to your computer directly, rawly, in raw form. Like this whole screen is called the GU. It's a graphics user interchange GUI, and it's a format that's like an application through Windows. I use Windows that allows you to talk to the computer, but the more direct way you do it is through the command prompt. And this is PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. I use Windows PowerShell over the command prompt like this because there's certain commands in the PowerShell that picks up and are more user friendly than the command prompt. That's why I find it to be more user friendly. And so yeah, let's just go back to this list of sources that I worked with while I was learning programming, beginning for like the last year or so. And Learn Python the Hard Way is great. Like I said, you start off learning with syntax, and syntax is can be kind of confusing at first, and it's just because it's kind of like learning how to write in a language. You've never seen the letters before. You've never seen how to use it, and the cool thing is once you learn how to do the syntax and you go through the first like 20 exercises or so, the exercises begin to transition to logic. Now logic is kind of it's like what ifs and true and false and ifs and the if statements and else and just like logical statements, because a computer it really only talks to in one and zeros, and what I mean by that, it can be broken down to a true and a false value, so it's one or the other. And in a lot of courses where you start off, they're going to try to throw logic in with syntax, and I feel like that's really hard to grasp as a learning programmer, and that's why this class introduces computer syntax, computer logic really smoothly with syntax. And syntax and logic are going to be your two core programming skills. And every language is going to have their syntax, but every language is going to have the same type of logics, like statements and examples. And it's really important to exercise the logical aspect of coding to become a good programmer. So I think this class of Learn Python the Hard Way is an amazing source because it breaks down the logic very simply and very approachable and not very daunting. Like I've taken so many beginning classes and like programming classes, intro to programming, and they messed this up and they discouraged their students from continuing the course because they really throw in the logic and the syntax and then sometimes even data structures later on. And data structures is this is like there's like dictionaries, a list. Data structures is how your computer processes information and how you as a coder programmer can present data to the computer. And yeah, those are three core concepts that are very important in programming: syntax, logic, and data structures. Very important, and I believe it's important to break them down and keep them separated for the first time. And Learn Python the Hard Way does it really well. Some other sources that I've come across through is there's this wonderful subreddit. And if you don't know what subreddit is, it's a Reddit is a website. It's quoted as the front page of the internet and has a lot of different subreddits. And one that I really like is called Learn Programming. Learn Programming, and here you'll find a lot of different links of like and questions of users and teachers and like success stories of people who have learned programming and got jobs with it, and excuse me, and how they went about doing it. So I think it's a great website, and there's a lot of different resources, and a lot of my things that I found out through programming were because of this website and this like forum website. And so yeah, I'd recommend checking this out and subscribing to it, and just following it and see if you have any questions and post them. And there's another link I found through this subreddit is called the Odin Project. And the Odin Project it's like a free online boot camp. That's what they promote it as. And here they teach you how to code from the very beginning to the end, how to become a programmer, like actually a full stack programmer, how to be a front end side where you work with the browsers and the display of browsers, and also the back end side where you work with the data and the servers, and how to store and retrieve and present data to the front end user. And I think this is a great website, but the Odin Project, they advertise that it takes like 1,000 hours to complete these numbers or these sub lessons. And I really like a lot of these. But the thing about the Odin Project, he takes a lot of the links from other websites. Like in Introduction to Web Development, he links like a lecture from CS50X. So it's kind of like a collection of other resources and links, and that he presents in his structural way. And I think this is a great I'm going to go through the Web Development 101 and learn how to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now for web development, especially front end, the three most important things is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the three technologies, and language. JavaScript is a language you need to know, and that's how a lot of the browsers are ran in JavaScript or encoded in JavaScript. So those three things are really important, and I'm going to go eventually through the Web Development 101. I'm going to skip Ruby programming and Ruby on Rails, because Ruby is a language. It's like a backend language, and Ruby on Rails is a backend framework. And I'm not a fan of those. I think, from my understanding, they're kind of an older technology. What I've been learning lately is Python. And Python is a great language. It's much more the way they describe it is Python creates a cleaner code. And if you're working in a like team setting where you do in a professional team, they want your code to be readable and clean so other people can look at it and understand it. And from my understanding, Ruby on Rails is kind of like a magic language, and a lot of things that happens is like not like direct or understandable exactly. So my goal later on is to kind of skip through this, but also move on to HTML and CSS and JavaScript and jQuery. jQuery is a JavaScript library that allows you to communicate with the backend server. So it's kind of like a link between front end and back end. So this really it's really important to know jQuery as well. So it's a lot of one of the skills that the employers look for web development position. And yeah, so what I'm talking about, like a framework for web development, Django is a framework that's very popular right now, and it's ran in Python language. So that's why I've been learning Python, because eventually Django is a framework that allows you to create like a server and run a website through your own server. Like, let's say if you have an Amazon Web Services account and you can have like a cloud space, you can run Django through it and have and have your website presented through like JavaScript or something like that. But Django this is another tutorial. It's called How to Tango with Django, and it's a really good tutorial because it goes through an example. You make a website that has Django framework and database specifications, and it also teaches you how to use Git. Git is a really great website. You're gonna need to know eventually. And Git is it's a code repository website. GitHub, that's what I mean by Git. It's GitHub, and code repository is where you store your code online that you make up. And it's important to have a way to. It's important to document your work online or learning how to do it, because when you work in a team setting as a web developer and as a programmer in a professional setting, you need to document your work and show other users, other coders, what changes you've made and stuff like that. So it's really important to learn how to use GitHub or other code storing websites. And yeah, so this Django tutorial teaches you how to do that. It's a really good source as well. And another thing is, like, for someone like me, I don't have a background in web development or programming, and my goal is to get end goal is to get a job as a web developer. Now, how do I go about do that in a professional setting? How do I convince my employers and people who hire programmers that I am capable of doing the job? Well, the answer to that is you need to have a portfolio. You need to have an online portfolio or a website where it can show the work that you've done, and so you can show these employers that you're capable of producing online content. It's kind of like an art portfolio. If you're an artist, you need to have artwork done to present to the like the people who would want to see your art and hire you for make more artwork. And that's why I'm gonna choose to do the Django framework, and my goal is to make a website through a portfolio through the Django framework, because it's a very popular framework and database I guess framework today. And my brother is a programmer and he works for Shippo. It's a startup that compiles different shipping carriers and allows you to print a label, like a shipping label, and they use Django and Python for all their work, and that's how they structure their website. And I think it's a really good professional example. And you can have a lot of Django allows you to do a lot of like authentication and like work where you can. It's a good framework. I don't know too much about it yet. I started doing this tutorial. It's a little confusing because I didn't know Python really well. So I started doing this tutorial, and then I realized I should learn Python a little more, and that's why I'm continuing Python. But my end goal is to create a website, a portfolio website through the Django framework and the server that they provide, and to have it through the Amazon Cloud Service. So I'll be able to link it on my resume. And yes, portfolio is really something important. I went over the Odin project. This is something that I just signed up for not too long ago. It's through Coursera. It's called the Full Stack Web Development Specialization. And I'm enrolled in it. And if you have some issues paying for the program, you can literally fill out like a form, and they will approve you right away and review your case later on, depending on if you're really serious about it. So you don't have to pay for it right away. And this is like a 5-course program that breaks down the courses into these little 5 subsections, and they're only like a month span at a time. And the cool thing about this online course set is you have a mentor that every week you report to your questions. So there's actually an instructor there who supervises you and makes sure you're going have any questions. So it kind of feels like an online course, and of course you get like a certificate in the end, which is really nice. But the most important thing, what I love about this what I love about this course set is because the technologies they use are very modern and very the ones that are being used today in today's world and what our employers are looking for. And what I mean by that is, of course, you have your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then that's your first class, the most important skill sets. But then on the second class, you jump into front-end web user interface frameworks. Now this is huge. For the front-end web developer, this class teaches you Bootstrap, CSS, and JavaScript components, and then it goes on for the third class, you learn AngularJS. And this is a really popular front-end framework as well. And that's what AngularJS is. If you're looking for a front-end web developer, what they're going to look for is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and front-end frameworks like Bootstrap and AngularJS. And these three courses go over those 5 more important things. And I think this class is amazing because it uses all those, it teaches you these skills, and also at the end of each course, you make a few projects, you make multiple projects that go over those skills. So I'm gonna be doing this. Today is February 15th, and today is my first day on this first class, and I'll be documenting my progress along the way for it. But I'm really excited about this, and because later on goes into course 4, which is more like a back-end and course server side. So yeah, it's really great. I believe it's going to be a great tool, a learning tool, and all these links that I'm talking about, I will link below on the description, so you can go over them as well if you'd like. Let's see what I also got here. Oh, this is a really cool map that you'll probably stumble upon if you're trying to learn how to program. And I've seen this used in few different sources. But it pretty much tells you what web development is and what kind of skills you need to learn. And as you can see, when you start off the basic when you start with web development, you gotta learn the basic front end stuff. And front end web development is kind of like your entry level to web development. It's kind of a lot of time it's like the nitty gritty work, and not considered desirable in the field because you get bored of it. I guess I don't even know why, but most people they want to eventually move on to the server side and the back end work, because that's where all the data and all the big chunks of like thinking and good paying jobs are, because you're actually processing a bunch of different data, user data. Front end is just how the data is presented. So it's not compared to on the big scale. Like this backend, it's more desirable and more harder and more like acquired taste, I suppose. But for basic front end, you're gonna have your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and a little bit of jQuery. This is like your library, JavaScript library that allows you to talk to the backend server sides, I think. And then you go to front-end web developer. You move on to, you got your JavaScript frameworks like AngularJS, and then you got your like CSS tools like Bootstrap. So, and I don't know, some of this other stuff. I see Grunt a lot, and Ember.js also here is really popular. My brother said it's a really cool front-end framework. And then from the back-end side, you have your Node.js and PHP, which is like old stuff. And then database. This is your databases that store data. And you're gonna a lot like how to tangle with Django. You use a framework. You use a database there. And then just stuff that no matter which route you do, you need to learn how to use a basic terminal with your command prompt. And GitHub is where you store your code online, and just learn how the servers and clients, just stuff like that. And I don't know if these all links. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know that. It's just straight up links too. It's really nice. So anyways, this is just a really cool map of just to get a big picture of web development and programming. And I think programming through web development is a great way to learn how to program, because everyone uses websites today, and to be able to make a website, not just from like a website building website, but to actually code one, you'll be able to use hands-on and real life applications and to coding, and that's why, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I want to learn web development. But also it's just I like the internet, and I think it'll be something I can see myself doing. And yeah, so in my next video, I'm gonna be going through a Python program, and I'm just gonna make my own very first program. I'm gonna go over how this learn Python the hard way, like exercises work, and I'll just make a quick Python program and just talk about some things about Python and just basic programming. So all right, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. Bye.